you had all that space as a kid where you had the outdoor rink, you got to go outside and play. That's because your parents, they were small business owners. So I remember it's called a nursery. You think of kids with a nursery, but the nursery is they had, what was it, plants and flowers and all that stuff.
Yeah, so they've actually done it for over 35 years, I think. They just retired last year. But no, they started that up from nothing, and they did it together their whole lives. And flowers, hanging baskets, trees, any sort of plant, shrub, anything like that. They did, and I learned actually quite a bit from them, and how they did that with that I've taken with me into my own business as well. So um, when you're around people like that, you pick up things you don't realize that you're picking up, and then all of a sudden they're a tool that you can use in the future. So definitely learned a lot from them. But yeah, we had a lot of space to build hockey rinks and things like that because living out in the country, that's how it is. So
They say that things aren't taught, that they're actually caught. So you get that from your parents just watching them day to day, that congruency, that consistency of actually living through the lessons that they teach you. They're actually doing them. And I actually did something that I think uh, you'll enjoy. So I reached out to our mutual community of hockey players. Some of them you might have played with over the years. And I just said, hey, I'm sitting down with Trevor Hendrikx for an hour. If you were sitting down with him, what questions would you ask? So you might recognize a few of these names. So we have a question from Richard Lamoureux. All
okay.
right. So Richard Lamoureux, this has to do with your parents. He wants to know if having hardworking parents running their own business in a small rural community helped you achieve success as a professional athlete and business owner. If there's anything from that upbringing that you applied to your endeavors as an adult. So that's from Richard Lamoureux.
Ooh,
Good question. He should have his own podcast, I think.
very good question. That's actually good timing. So I kind of just touched on that a little bit, but definitely, and I mean, seeing how they built that up from nothing, and that I think they started with one greenhouse, and I can remember being very little and being out there and helping them and working, and my sister as well. We would help, and it just grew and grew and grew, and just seeing the little things like dealing with customers and things like that, learning how to speak to people, like all these little things that at the time I probably didn't realize I was picking up, but they're things that I learned, and just from watching them. Definitely, are things that I use now in my business, and just in general, just the way I speak to people and things like that. So it definitely, it was something that definitely helped me for sure.
So yesterday was Mother's Day. So this was probably a big day for your wife, and I'm guessing for your parents, Mother's Day was probably a big seller of flowers out there.
Big time. That was, I think, one of their biggest weekends every year. So that day they'd be pretty much run off their feet. There'd be people parked down the street, and you always get the last minute guys coming in getting their stuff. But most people would buy their stuff in advance, and my parents would keep it looking nice in the greenhouse. And then most people would come and kind of make a trip out of it in the day and pick up their flowers. And it was a very beautiful place too, because there's lots of flowers, and my parents had a few gardens outside, so you can kind of come walk around and stuff like that. But yeah, it's funny because over here in the UK they have a different Mother's Day. So Mother's Day in the UK is actually in March. I'm
Hmm.
not sure why. So we actually already celebrated Mother's Day, and then it gets a bit confusing sometimes because I forget a few times because with the different Mother's Days it
Or at
gets a bit.
least you have a built-in excuse, if you forget.
Exactly, exactly. Thank God for social media to remind me as well. So